Hey guys, and welcome to what is one of the most disgustingly tough matchups to play in the game. I'm a Rubber Ducker War, and today I'm leading the forces of Grand Cathay up against the dreaded Slaanesh legions of pure speed. Now, this is a really bad matchup for Grand Cathay due to the speed difference and low punch Grand Cathay tends to bring in its ground and infantry forces compared to its range power. So Grand Cathay, they like getting on objectives, sitting back, and obliterating the enemy from range. That is not something you can do against Slaanesh, because they are fast as F, boy. You better believe it. They can camp your spawn super effectively, shut down cannons and crossbowmen in a blink of an eye. So we're going to have to mix stuff up a little bit and try one or two new tactics. We're going relatively infantry heavy. We've got Jade Warriors and Peasant Long Spearmen in the front here, making a stalwart battle line. And over on the far side to claim our home objective, we have more Peasant Long Spearmen and Jade Warriors. I have brought Terracotta Sentinel to the battlefield, hoping that its mass can really help pin in enemy chariots, cavalry, and single entities, and do a little bit of damage back. Plus, who doesn't love the model of the Terracotta Sentinel? It is both beautiful and horrifying. I still have bad memories of Anticity beating my ass with this creature. We do have Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon herself, coming into action. Did a guide on her recently if you want to check out a small guide, but I think she's very powerful in general. I do quite like the Blooded Dragon Lords for Grand Cathay, but Miao Ying is a bit of a beast in her own right. Coming with the Wrath of the Storm, she can of course transform into a dragon. We have Earthblood, we have Storm of Shadows, Regrowth, and Talons of the Night. So a relatively hefty toolkit there. It's been quite pivotal to our success or our defeat. As for my opponent, he's gone for the standard Slaanesh opening, which is a bucket ton of cavalry, a mixture of Heartseekers and Hellstriders, including the whip variety on the left, and the exact same situation on the right-hand side as well. And then leading the battle charge is a Herald of Slaanesh. This is a very common start in army. Sometimes you will see the Exalted Greater Demon as well, which I'm a big fan of because it can go toe-to-toe with the Terracotta Sentinels, one of the few tools Cathay have in an attempt to even the playing field. We do have Locus of Grace, we have a Pit of Shades, as well as the Withering. We also have Pendulum, which is banned in most tournaments, but this was simply a ranked battle, as it is currently a little bit broken and a little bit, well, I say a little bit, far too overpowered, as it decimates infantry with a blink of the eye. But without further ado, let's get this battle underway, as we do march our legions of Grand Cathay in the name of the Dragon Empire to war. And we do move forward here. Miao Ying going to be supporting the Terracotta Sentinel. I attempt to claim the central objective, the contested one, and my home objective as quickly as possible, as I know I basically have zero chance of actually capping my opponent's home objective as Cathay. So it looks like my opponent was attempting to do a sneaky push on my Peasant Longspearmen and Jade Warriors. I did dispatch one unit to go aid them, and now they're going to have to pull back into the middle as my opponent attempts to use his mobility of his cavalry to gain some early damage advantage. I'm going to pull back the Terracotta Sentinel just a little bit to the reach of the Peasant Longspearmen so they can support in the endeavor up against the Hellstriders, who are charging in. The Terracotta Shell face to meet this threat, and he goes in like an absolute boss, slamming his blade down, decapitating rider and horse alike, or Hellsteed, I should say. They do come with a big air effect spell. Unfortunately, only able to catch one unit of the Hellstriders. The others were well microed away from my opponent. Down the middle, you can see our Jade Warriors getting obliterated by just constant charges coming in from the cavalry. We do have some long spearmen in here, plus Miao Ying, who is certainly no joke in melee, and the Terracotta Sentinel stands in a tide of Hellstriders as more Jade Warriors push towards the main fight as well. Fortunately, you can see they're getting jumped here quite aggressively and poisoned. Miao Ying stands alone at the moment, just surrounded by enemies. She will try her best to drive them off, and it looks like her vicious roar and just exploding. A couple of Hellstriders there, some awesome magic is going to force them into a hot retreat. And I have decided to summon some Jade Lancers. Now, my Jade Lancers have been chevroned up. They are no match for the enemy cavalry, but they are one of the few units I have which can pin in the enemy cavalry and hopefully allow my air of effect spells to bring the pain, and that's kind of the mission today. Jade Lancers not doing terrible in combat, having charged in nice and fresh, supported by the Jade Warriors, Terracotta Sentinel, and Miao Ying. And the battlefield is basically done completely outside my deployment zone at the moment. Objective 3 is well and truly secure in my hands. Objective 1, no one is currently sitting on. My opponent pin all his forces in the early bomb rush game here, coming in with the cavalry. It looks like we are going to get a Locus of Grace, good melee defense and physical resistance to all these troops. I do not care though. I'm going to bring the Wrath of the Dragons to bear and just get a beautiful cast. Look at the death and destruction on all the cavalry. Of course, also going to be destroying some of my own men, but hey, when it comes to killing demons, there is no sacrifice too far that we will not make as Grand Cathay to drag them down. We do have the Jade Lancers clattering into the Hellstriders, doing some decent damage. Big Fat Pit of Shades does go down. My opponent responded in kind to my annoying air of effect spells. Luckily, it's only really killing peasants here, as the Jade Warriors are able to fall back, as are my cavalry. Terracotta Sentinels doing a decent job in general, and we're actually up considerably on damage value at this point, though the battlefield looks quite bare for both forces. It was actually not too bad in the early game, surprisingly, as the Hellstriders are forced off here. Peasant Long Spearmen are on approach. Terracotta Sentinel as well, just driving off the enemy cavalry, who are going to flee back to their home world in an attempt to, rid themselves of the threat of Grand Cathay. And then they decide, actually, you're going to turn around and try and jump you, thinking that I've left some units idle. But the Peasant Long Spearmen will have the support of the Cathay army as Terracotta Sentinels and Jade Lancers are on approach. My opponent's trying to be a bit sneaky. He has summoned double Seeker Chariots, who, well, looks like a one Seeker Chariot and one Hellflyer Chariot. They don't do the most amount of damage, but they're pretty good at just annoying infantry and knocking them over and hopefully supporting the Hellstriders here. But I have 2 units. I have Long Spearmen, they're chevroned up. I have chevroned up Jade Warriors. We should better hold that relatively comfortably, I think. And once again, we're quite comfortably able to drive off the enemy cavalry. Now, this comes into one of the big problems of Grand Cathay. They have nothing really which does big burst damage output. And because of that, my only way to drag down the Herald of Slaanesh and other such characters is either shoot them, which we can't do because we're against Slaanesh, or blob up on them, surround them, and drag them down. That completely opens us up, of course, to Pit of Shades and OP Pendulum spells. And yeah, we're going to eat a rather nasty Pit of Shades. And I saw this coming down, and I was like, I'm going to try and get out there. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice all my own men. I do not care. I have to kill this Herald of Slaanesh, or it's simply going to murder all of my infantry. It's the perfect counter to them. We're slow and we can't dodge such spells, so I need to get the Herald of Slaanesh off before flooding the map with infantry to overwhelm the cavalry. Unfortunately, Herald of Slaanesh was able to escape a well-placed Locus of Grace. And at this point in the battle, I was still ahead damage value-wise, but nowhere near as much as previously done. Miao Ying plus Jade Warriors and the Terracotta are going to be moving towards Objective 2. Objective 3 is quite comfortably held by me. We take a little bit of damage, but I summon some Jade Lancers. We're able to easily break off the Hellstriders and force back the Chariots. In fact, our Jade Lancers are hunting down the Chariots. Quite a nice counter to them. Hopefully being able to pin them in a little bit. We do summon a load of Jade Warriors. Now is the time, now is the hour. We must push forward and claim the central objective. We do have a bit of a tickets lead. My opponent was a little bit slow to capture his home objective. We do have Seekers of Slaanesh there and 2 very beat up units of Hellstriders. We're going to be moving in now. Terracotta Sentinel looking to claim Objective 2 as quickly as possible. But I don't know if my Jade Warriors are going to be enough. We have 3 units on the approach plus Miao Ying. Only 2 units for my opponent, but he does, of course, have the mobility of his cavalry. Jade Lancers come down to the middle to help assist wrestling this objective from the clutches of my opponent, who's trying to go for an early cap here. Of course, his Lord can cap, whereas mine cannot, because Miao Ying does technically count as a flyer, being able to turn into a mighty dragon. Hellflares get forced off by the Jade Lancers quite comfortably, just driving them away. There is a bit of a trap as I get pulled into Heartseekers and Hellstriders. We look to pin these guys in place and hopefully buy time for me to capture the middle objective, but I'm too slow. Look, my war is still marching towards the front, and my opponent is able to cap this objective before we do indeed get there. We do come with a lovely air effect spell, though, on the spears. That should allow the Terracotta Sentinel, you would hope, to break and fend them off alongside Miao Ying. My opponent's cavalry are going to be jumping the Jade Warriors before we can even get to the front line, and we're still slowly marching on. It is a slow march indeed, unfortunately, as Grand Cathay. Only 28 speed on Jade Warriors makes them rather slumberous compared to Slaanesh, but the Slaanesh does make most factions seem slumberous. We summon some Jade Lancers, try to counter this where possible. Up in our home objective, we do have 3 units here, which is far too much. My opponent's putting a lot of pressure, though, and all this cavalry has just come from a fight over here. We were able to fend them off, but I do want to see some of them rotating back to the mid as we are slowly starting to capture it. Miao Ying, she's had enough, finally decides to rip open her body and just kind of emerge as a dragon from within and go hunt down that pesky Herald, which has been annoying me all game. So we're starting to slap it up quite nicely now. Locus of Grace goes down. I do not care. It should not be enough to survive. However, because of course they crumble rather than break, she is still going to be able to cast a couple of spells. In fact, she gets 2 spells off in this time. A big fat nasty Pit of Shades, which does do about as much damage to me as it does the enemy, but plus a OP Pendulum coming in and just taking up the heads of the entire unit of Jade Warriors as well as Jade Lancers there in a devastating blow. But she does go down, which is good news for me, so I'm happy. It's a price I'm willing to pay here. Miao Ying trying to hold in at the middle, but the majority of my infantry just got annihilated by the spellcaster, and we're still trying to drive them in. We've got Jade Lancers attempting to pour in, but a mixture of Chariots and Heartseekers are keeping all our units at bay. We're decimating the cavalry, though. Look at the mighty Terracotta Sentinel. I wish I had brought 2 now in the opening. I think maybe that's the way to go against Slaanesh, because it's been a slow, ponderous start by us. But we are still just ahead on tickets. I don't know for how long. My opponent is now starting to just spam summon infantry, which is 100% what he needs to do. Keep this middle objective, because there's very little I can do about his home objective, though I am going to be trying with a couple of Jade Lancers to apply a bit of pressure. Once again, the Talons do come down, doing some decent damage here to the Marauder Spearmen, and okay damage to the spawn, though it is more of an anti-infantry spell there. Jade Warriors get broken off. The Terracotta Sentinel continues to swim in a sea of enemies. Seeker Chariots and Heart Renders just assaulting any reinforcements I do bring. So I'm having to use some Jade Lancers here. Apply pressure to Objective 1. I have 0 chance of capturing this objective right now, particularly with how many fast movers my opponent has on the battlefield. But if I can drag the cavalry away, hopefully allow me to get a couple of units of infantry pushing towards Objective 2, and I'm going to have to abandon my home objective to just 1 unit of Spearmen and push in Jade Warriors and Peasant Long Spearmen to the central objective, where Miao Ying is making a desperate stand, trying to rally some troops. Terracotta Sentinel just about in the zone. So we have successfully dragged away the Heartseekers, as well as some of the chariots, to deal with the Jade Lancers. We should actually get a pretty decent fight here. We're going to be decent up against the enemy chariot, so the Heartseekers are going to rip and rend open our armor, but hopefully it's going to allow me to move forward with some Jade Warriors. There are more Hellstriders, so just 13 models enough to pin in the Jade Warriors and stop them getting into that central position. We do get some Jade Lancers summoned in the back. We're going to be coming in with, once again, some big air effect spells onto Lords of Slaanesh. Miao Ying's really trying to carry this game on her back right now, and it looks like the Hell Scourgers will be going down relatively quickly and probably breaking there, as Jade Warriors do finally get into the central objective. Miao Ying up to 96 kills, though, been an absolute beast and a wrecking ball so far. And Jade Warriors going to be pushing forward to engage Marauders of Slaanesh, as Long Spearmen do drag down Spawn. So at this point, we're relatively even on damage value, but my opponent is now starting to get quite a nice lead on tickets. I'm really struggling to capture this middle objective. I'm throwing every single reinforcement I have at it, and I'm not getting anywhere close. Jade Warriors are being summoned. We do indeed bring in, it looks like the Jade Lancers were forced back there. I believe we're going to be bringing in another big boy soon. There he is, a Terracotta Sentinel. I'm hoping with the 2 guys in the middle, we'll have enough chaff clearing potential alongside Miao Ying. Peasant Long Spearmen continue to hold this flank. Looks like my opponent has kind of given up trying to claim it and is just going for the central objective. I'm doing a sneaky back cap. This was not deliberate. This unit just happened to rally inside the area, and I'm hoping to claim Objective 1, but it looks like we've actually been forced out of it somehow, and now in come the Hellstriders who bring the pain. In the central fight, Jade Warriors alongside Peasant Long Spearmen are desperately fighting a bitter fight against the Slaanesh infantry, as Miao Ying whips her tail back and forth. She's fighting the swordsman, so it shouldn't do too bad whatsoever. Terracotta Sentinels attempting to kind of get rid of all these pesky spearmen who doth surround him. The other Terracotta Sentinel going to continue to move in, attempting to get some Jade Warriors in. I'm just force spam clicking at this point to try to move them in, because they're going to do 0 damage to the Hellflayers. A really nice narcissism does go down on the Terracotta Sentinel as he holds up a mirror and looks at his glorious figure, stopping him getting into this middle objective. Though the cavalry is kind of just swarming the back here, we do have some Exalted Demonettes of Slaanesh being summoned. Not a bad objective guard on Objective 1, and it looks like they're going to float over to finish off this unit of Jade Warriors. I am summoning in more Spearmen. There's 2 units of cheap Spearmen, attempt to push the objective as hard as physically possible. And we are starting to claim it. It's a little too late, though. 3,300 to get to 2,300. There is still time for a Cathay victory. Terracotta Sentinels really doing a number now on the enemy infantry, alongside these Jade Warriors who have finally been allowed to kind of do their job and cleave out enemy infantry. Miao Ying's trying her best now to hunt down those pesky chariots who have been quite a nuisance all day, up to 42 and 37 kills. It does look like the Jade Warriors will be able to force into the middle. My opponent is trying his best with Heartseekers just to mess up my infantry, and is doing it rather successfully. We have more Jade Lancers who are silver chevrons now, riding in though to try to help out, and the middle objective is going back and forth. So my Terracotta Sentinel, unfortunately, his attack animation actually leads him away from the action where we want him. We want him back in this middle zone. Miao Ying is hunting down the chariots. Once again, my opponent keeps attempting to push up here onto Objective 3. It is going to force me to bring another unit of Peasant Long Spearmen over here. That should be enough to hold, though. The 2 Spearmen against the 2 Cavalry plus Miao Ying really shouldn't be that much of a problem. And it looks like our Spearmen are going to get into the central objective, and perhaps the tides are starting to turn here a little bit. Terracotta Sentinels doing decent damage to the enemy infantry. We also have some glorious Jade Lancers just charging into the fray once more. They've been pretty good for me all game, actually. I don't know how their damage value is going to weigh up, but just pinning the enemy and being a general nuisance as they continue to swarm around and try to claim the central objective. So it looks like finally we are going to get Objective 2, but it is way too late. My opponent has 4,100 tickets to our 2,700. I need the triple cap, and I am ready to risk it all. So we push in with some Jade Lancers. We'll be fighting a lot of enemy cavalry and Exalted Demonettes. And now a lot of this infantry force in the middle is actually going to have to push up to Objective 1. I believe we dispatched a Terracotta Sentinel to go over there and try to wrestle it from my opponent. Objective 2 is firmly in my control. The cavalry is just doing absolutely garbage, basically, against the Peasant Long Spearmen, unfortunately for the cavalry here. I think alongside Miao Ying in particular, with the Wrath of the Storm coming down, increasing the Peasants' melee attack by 24, means they got 44 melee attack with spears as well. The bonus versus large against the cavalry. We are quite comfortably going to push back the rather squishy forces of Slaanesh there. We do have some Jade Warriors attempting to pin in all the enemy cavalry and stop them getting to the central objective. And we are starting to try to push through. Terracotta Sentinel is attempting to push up to Objective 1, though he's rather slow and ponderous, getting dragged down by the enemy cavalry. Peasant Long Spearmen are attempting to push back all the enemy cav. Unfortunately, there are going to be some Exalted Demonettes to pin our approach. At this point, I tried the biggest brain gamble of all time. I summoned 2 units of Jade Lancers, and only 1 unit is going to go the typical route towards Objective 1, and this is an absolute bait. So I cannot fight Slaanesh Cavalry with my cavalry. It will not work. So what we're going to do is move forward our Jade Lancers and distract 2 units of Hellstrides and then just run away. We're going to flee to the corner of the map, drag these 2 units away, and that's going to allow the other unit of Jade Lancers to push up, hopefully through the mid, and start capping Objective 1 alongside the Terracotta Sentinel and the Peasant Long Spearmen as we do a desperate charge over there. However, my opponent is applying so much pressure to Objective 2 and moving once again more Peasant Long Spearmen into the middle, and it's starting to be decapped, unfortunately. I've run out of Winds of Magic as well. Imagine some of the big effect spells we could do here. I perhaps wasted too many in the early days of the battle, and it does look like the middle objective may be claimed by my opponent. Jade Warriors are pushing in. The Jade Lancers who wanted to push Objective 1, I now have a choice to make. Do I push into Objective 2 to try and hold on, or do I make a move for Objective 1 with our ballsy play? I attempt to flood in to Objective 2, but we're losing it too hard, and even with the Jade Lancers and the Peasant Long Spearmen, it is not enough. We've got to over 4,000 tickets, but my opponent, 4,800, does get the 2-for-1 cap, and there is naught we can do. I tried to summon some Jade Warriors, and the Jade Lancers who are treated can attempt a big push on Objective 1, but it is not going to be enough, I'm afraid. GG is well played to my opponent there. Really fantastic game by him. Did some decent work and some good micro. Although I do find Slaanesh actually surprisingly easy to micro, I've discovered. If you open up with a load of cavalry and just put them in 2 command groups and just roll them as basically 2 units. So I do actually recommend, you know, people who want to play Slaanesh and think they're going to be a bit too micro-intensive. They're actually a lot less micro-intensive than you probably initially would have thought. So I do recommend trying them out a bit, and they're a load of fun to play. Well played to my opponent. He did a really good job. And this is, yeah, I'm pretty proud of our performance, honestly. I'm not too ashamed whatsoever to make it so close with Cathay up against Slaanesh. Against a mighty warrior indeed. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll delve into damage dealt, kills, and all that stuff in a second. But if you guys enjoyed this replay, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more Total War Warhammer content. We're getting very close to 10,000 subscribers. And that makes me a very happy ducky. Feel free to comment down below as well. Any funny comments, what you enjoyed about the battle, feel free to quack at me. Or, you know, feel free to scream that, you know, you don't like Domination, you only want to see land battles and so on, or vice versa. As does happen, unfortunately, underneath basically every single video. There are tons of links in the description. Twitch, Patreon, Discord, you know the drill. But let's hop into the battle. So Miao Ying the Storm Dragon, 3,521 gold value. By far my standout player, 147 kills. The Dragon mode was able to eventually assassinate the enemy general and just bring some big air effect spells, which is something like they really need because they struggle to do big damage quickly without range. And up against Slaanesh, that is simply not possible. 129 kills for Terracotta Sentinel, 1,600 gold value, not too shabby whatsoever. Jade Warriors did not pay for themselves, or didn't get much value whatsoever. However, the Peasant Longsword may be a better way to go with 1,000 gold value and 938. They definitely suffer to the Marauders a lot more. But against the enemy cavalry, they may be the way, like chevroned up Peasant Long Spearmen, and then double Terracotta Miao Ying, maybe for an opening. Only 285 damage value on the other Terracotta. He wasn't able to really get going. We did have a Glorious Sky Junk, but I just couldn't get the funds, unfortunately, to drag it out. 1.4k on the Jade Lancers, 1.4k again, and 994. But they were probably summoned in multiple times, unfortunately. And the other Peasant Longsword did okay, bit of a mixed bag. As my opponent, the Herald of Slaanesh, 2.2k gold value despite not being on the battlefield very long. Lovely use of Pit of Shades, and of course Pendulum will Pendulum. 279 kills as well. 297 on the Heartseekers of Slaanesh. I believe they were summoned multiple times, but still, such an awesome unit. 2,900 gold value, 900 on the Seekers, and yeah, the other cavalry, less so damage-wise, but good all-round harass. The Exalted Demonettes went on the battle long, still got 600 gold value for them. I do like the Chariot play by my opponent, and I don't mind the Spawn coming in. 820 gold value on them. Any other standouts? It does not look like it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace, and as always, stay awesome.